What's up? It's Mike Mal, and you are listening to the Athletor Podcast, where we dive into the processes, mindsets, strategies of some of the most successful athletes and coaches from all walks of life. Athletor Podcast coming at you. Coach Teyon Ware, the newest head coach at a Division I school. He's going to be heading up the Northern Colorado Bears, and we got really deep into the weeds on NIL. And I'll be honest with you, Coach Ware has some really innovative thoughts on exactly what simple guidelines we can apply pretty much tomorrow to NIL and the transfer portal that could really benefit the sport long term. Plus, there is a person on his Mount Rushmore list that has never been on Mount Rushmore, at least on this podcast. All that and more coming up on the podcast. Don't miss it. Hey, everyone knows that wrestling is 90% mental. We're super excited to have partnered with Wrestling Mindset, the #1 wrestling specific mindset program in the world. Make sure to sign up at WrestlingMindset.com using promo code Athletor25 for a $500 discount. Stop underperforming and losing to guys that you should beat. So, Coach Teyon Ware, how you doing, sir?
Good. Can't complain.
All right. So, can't complain yet, but here's the thing. Getting to that new head coaching role, you might have plenty to complain about after a little while.
Oh yeah, I think all coaches do, even Kale.
Yeah, right. You know what? That's funny that you say that. Yes, I have heard him. You know, we don't get the private jet this weekend.
Yeah. So.
I'm kidding, Coach. Relax. No, but for real though, there are some responsibilities that, well, you may not even know what they are yet. What are you expecting as your first head coaching role? What are the obstacles that you're expecting?
You know, like I told the guys when I first got there, I don't know what the year is going to bring. Meaning, you know, um, how guys respond. But the thing I expect out of them is to do the small right things and represent the brand and not just wear the player. That's what I do expect. So the deal is you can't do the small things right. You can't come in with a good attitude. You can't bring the effort day in and day out. Those are things I expect, and those are things I respect. So at the end of the day, this is a good time for guys, who've been there for a minute, to get an opportunity to get out there, because I told them we're building to put our best team out there. And at the end of the day, if guys don't want to represent this brand, I got to find guys that will.
That's interesting. What about the administration? How much contact have you been in with the administration? Because they can make your life very easy. They can make your life a struggle every day. How much do you know about the administration over at Northern Colorado?
I've gotten to know it's a small administration. We got
Right.
we got that help with athletics that I've gotten to know already. And a lot of times you don't get to know, you really don't see people's true side until you get into the fire, until you get in the storm. And so
Sure.
everybody can tell you they're by your side, want to help you get here and get there. Let's see when we go through the fire and things ain't as smooth. Those are the ones you'll see who's by your side to do your thing.
Sure. That makes sense. When you were just about like going through the interview process and things like that, I know in my instance, like if I go through an interview process, I'm always going to go to somebody that has either had that role or was close to that role in the past. Who was your first phone call? Like, hey, is this a job that I want? Like, I know everybody wants a head coaching job, right? And then sometimes you wind up, and like, we're going to be talking to a guy on Monday who thought he wanted the head coaching job. And then he was like, oh, y'all lied to me. Like, like this is not what I signed up for. And so who was your first phone call to see like, hey, is this a job worth taking? Because you had a great gig at OU, right? Like, I mean, it's not a bad gig at all.
The first is the head coach, Troy. While you ask, you've been there for a long time. You've been there for 13 seasons. Why are you leaving? And he had nothing but praise about the place. And he says it's a place where you start. You start if you want to grow in this game, especially as being a head coach, because there's levels to it. And so everybody ideally all want the big jobs, but
Sure.
they tend to forget, heavy, to whom much is given, much more is required. And at the end of the day, this is a place where you can start. You can actually lay your roots down to go do what you need to do, And, and at the end of the day, he had nothing but praise. But he said, what you want is what you put in. What you get out of it is what you put in. It's no different than your training. So you're saying, do everything that you've been doing. If you're as a wrestler, as an athlete, if you're not doing the small things right, and it's time to go against the top guys, you're not ready. At the end of the day, you're gonna get out what you put in, and I said, bingo. I don't see nothing wrong with that.
No, that's good. And you've seen both sides of that, right? Like being at Wyoming, smaller school, smaller administration, and then at OU, bigger school, like multi-million dollar donor base. Like you've seen both ends of that spectrum. Do you think that gives you a little bit of insight going into this job at UNC?
Yes, like I said, Wyoming's bigger than us. So, with the UNC, they got a big time football program.
Sure.
Their facilities are top notch, and everything like that. But yes, I learned even more, at OU of what seeing at and everything like that. Wyoming, I didn't see so much what was what took into that program, but OU, yes. And as you took it from there, you compared those numbers and you're like, wow, yeah, it's a big difference. But the deal is though too, as big things happen, Detroit made big things happen while he was here. Yes, he did. They have community. That's the good thing about it.
Hey, don't go anywhere. It's Mike. We'll get back to the podcast in just a second. We got to pay the bills though. Do you have an athlete that's looking to break into the social media space? We at athletorlive.com have a brand new in-depth tutorial done by none other than Caden Henshaw. If you don't know who Caden is, he's not even a Division I wrestler, yet he's got hundreds of thousands of engaged followers. Learn how to create engaging content, grow your followers, and open up new opportunities in the NIL space. Go to athletorlive.com/Caden and we'll give you the first module completely free.
Colorado has it, other than Air Force, who's in their own league. Northern Colorado is not, there, and so at the end of the day, the community's behind it. Just like it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a community to get behind the program to, for it to do big things.
Yeah. And is the goal, so it's tough, right? Because like, I know a lot of coaches, I'll use Scott Goodale as an example. Scott Goodale, when he first got the job at Rutgers, his mindset, his philosophy was very simple. We're gonna build a fence around the state of New Jersey, and we're taking all of our homegrown guys, and that's it. Like that's our goal, that's our mission. And then that changed somewhere in the first 10 years. Colorado is a wrestling rich state. It is a state that has good tradition, especially in freestyle and Greco, which is, in my opinion, translates probably better than just high school state championships into college wrestling. So, is your goal at first to just fence off Colorado, or is it to start looking at the national level talent that you can bring in to Northern Colorado?
Yeah, so we want to keep our Colorado boys home. We do. We don't want to lose our guys, to other states. That is the deal, But at the end of the day, am I accepting the ball? Of course I'm. We want to keep the Colorado kids home. But I understand, not everybody will fit into the program of the likes of what I expect out of my young men. Our deal is I tell guys this: hey, guys are adult boys, but by the time, if you listen and you follow the instructions we give you, by the time you be done here, you're grown men, ready for the world, And so, but only a few are willing to do that.
Sure. No, there's no question that you know, and this is something that maybe as a recruiter at OU, maybe you've had these conversations with parents, right? You've had the conversation of like, hey, I understand that I am responsible for some of the most formidable years in your son's life.
Mm-hmm.
But now it takes on a different meaning as a head coach, because if things don't go well or whatever, the kid flakes, and probably no fault of yours, now it falls more on you. Do you feel a sense of responsibility there?
Of course. I mean, I'm telling your parents, I'm telling the kid, we're here to give you the tools. But once again, it's up to the individual, which we express on, of how they use those tools. My parents can buy me all the tools and Milwaukee best tools all I want, but if I don't know how to use them, what good are they to me? And so
Right.
at the end of the day, we're trying to show you how to use those tools. And it starts with you. You got to come in with that good attitude, open to learn, because these tools have done good for others in the past that come from probably worse backgrounds with less and everything like that. So if it can work for Johnny, has done that used it, why can't it work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's dig into kind of the state of college wrestling, so to speak. This house settlement looks like it may be a good thing, but I don't know if there's enough guardrails being put on the NIL situation. How are you in a smaller program, like ready to how are you equipped to deal with the NIL transfer portal age that we're in?
Man, it's hard. Let's just say that. Because everything we have to do is fundraise. Fundraise is the key thing. And like I said, coming at OU, when you see what they get, just for traveling and equipment and all that operation budget, ours is half of that. So, but we're still doing the same type of travel and this, that, and the other. So we got to fundraise, to go get that. Then on top of fundraising, their focus is NIL. Their focus ain't, OU's focus is NIL. They already got everything else. Ours is equipment, travel, recruiting, this, that, and the other, just to make, the reach.
Just to get to par. Just to get to par.
And then now on top of that, then you have to deal with that. So at the end of the day, once again, you got to get the community behind it. This is what we're trying to do, and this is where we want to go. And to get that, you got to have the right sponsorship, because guys are not going to come to Northern Colorado if they don't have an opportunity, to get paid.
That's call it what it is.
And the bad thing about it is, the thing I dislike is everybody thinks they deserve to get paid and they don't have the results. Everybody wants to reward, but they don't want to take the risk. And at the end of the day, I don't need guys that want to be lions in the zoo. I want guys that want to be lions in the jungle, that gotta go hunt. And that becomes a problem, because everybody thinks they deserve to get paid.
Do you see it going a different way? Meaning, I know we talk to college coaches every single week, and what the direction that some of the smaller schools are going is, instead of paying a high school kid I don't care how many Fargo titles you win, I really don't. You're still unproven at the NCAA level. Fargo has age divisions, man. Like I don't know what to tell you. There's so like that's a different thing. Is there some correlation? Yes, of course. But some of these smaller schools are going to incentive-based NIL to not just attract young talent, but also to keep guys who have proven that they can do it at an NCAA level. Is that the direction that you see things going?
Yes, but even that scares guys. Because once again,
Sure.
guys you still have to prove yourself. You know, guys want a guarantee. That's what they want. They want, you know, give me this, but I can't promise you that. You know,
Yeah.
and that's a problem. You know, NCAA has got to get on board with that, because if we're going to treat this like a business, you know, the pros do it. Hey, they buy. There's rookie deals. No rookie comes out of the draft making top dollars. You know, you got to prove
Right.
yourself in that rookie league, and then you have the opportunity to sign. And then when you do sign, you might sign a 3-4 year deal, and at the end of
Right.
the day, that means you're not going anywhere. That's the same thing with this. And so, I mean, I believe that's the route we should take. But yes, most likely we're going to take the incentive. But once again, it's still a problem, because you got very few that actually want to just come prove themselves. Say, they be like, oh, yes, if I do that, I'll get this. Cool, let's do it. Now, people want guaranteed.
Right. And you know, it's funny. I think people get enamored, like with the correlation or the example that you just gave of the NFL. The NFL, yes, you're right. Coming out of the draft, they have a rookie signing bonus, which is not top dollar compared to the Patrick Mahomes and those type of contracts, but it's still a substantially more amount of money than we're making as wrestlers. But the NFL brings in so much more money that they can afford to do that. We can't afford to do that. And so some of these kids, I think, really look at that number and go, well, I'm a pro athlete too. Why aren't I making rookie NFL signing bonus money? Well, because you don't bring in that kind of money. And it's
Yeah.
really just the simple economics of it. And I don't know that a lot of these kids, whether it's their coach's fault, parents' fault, whatever, I don't think many of them really understand the economics that are involved, especially with wrestling. They just assume that they're all going to get $1 million a year for 5 years coming out the gate.
Right. Right. No, and that's a false narrative. You know, do I think a high school kid should get paid that type of money? No. You have not. There's levels to this game. That you can't. You know, one thing I've learned about success in this game, it's rented. It's not owned,
Right.
and rents due every day. You know, that's what I teach my guys. Is so many guys are still trying to live off the currency of what they've done in the past, high school wise, so this, that, and the other.
Sure.
And they don't come in with the right currency and everything like that.
Mm.
Yeah, it might get you through the door, you know, of scholarship and everything like that. But now go prove yourself of what what you're capable of more. You know, you got freshmen that are winning nationals. That's somebody that's proven. Hey, make sure that kid's taken care of, you know, because he's proven.
Right.
You know, and but you got guys that think because they're friends with somebody or they beaten somebody in the past and that person signs for this, but then they deserve it too, and they haven't gotten neither of those results.
Yeah, that math doesn't really math.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But okay. So then is there a way to fix this right now? Is there a way? I mean, is there a way to put a is it a salary cap? Is it do
Oh
you,
yeah.
do you
I mean, I was telling an old boss of mine. I said, I personally don't believe no high school kid should get paid going into
Mm.
college. I mean, you come in because that gives everybody a fair shake at the game, at the athlete.
Mm.
You know,
Right.
he decides where he or she is going to go and everything like that. And then now, you know, I decide, I choose my place that I'm going to go. I come out and say I show up my freshman year. Like I said,
Mm.
take care of that athlete because he's gotten to that next
Sure.
level and done some things. But
Right.
I've seen quite a few high school kids, high school stars get up to the next level And like I said, they went from being a lion in the jungle to a lion in the zoo because now they've gotten taken care of. You see it in all athletic sports, whether it's football,
Sure.
basketball, whatever. They've gotten comfortable and say, all right, I don't have to prove because I got a guarantee.
Right. Right. And that's the killer.
Yes, that is the killer. You've heard that, being comfortable kills dreams. That's just what it is. When you get comfortable, you stop dreaming, because hey, you're complacent. You're cool. I'm good. But these parents, high school coaches, athletes, they're like, hey, this is what I need, and because I won Fargo, a high school tournament at the college level,
Right.
and they don't do that international. Internationals, you get paid by your tournaments and everything.
You win a medal.
Yeah, you got to show, and yeah, a RTC might help you, might start you, but a RTC ain't starting you out with no 15 G's a year. No, the deal is they will help you, probably help you with the basic necessities of rent and everything like that to make sure, all right, your rent's taken care of. Now you got to go earn through the tournaments and bring home a medal.
Okay, you brought up RTCs. That's another thing you're going to have to fundraise for. At what point do you have to cast a bigger net? At what, it becomes I had a conversation with somebody today and I'm like, man, I don't envy any NCAA coach right now. I mean, you're going back to the same donor base saying, I need for the program for the same stuff you're talking about, for the travel, for the gear, for the this and that. I need more money for NIL. I need more money for RTCs. What's the answer? Is there a way to become more self-sufficient in this sport? Can we actually make some money?
That's a tough thing. That is a hard thing. As I see it now, no. Look at Northern Colorado. Northern Colorado, I would say we are the top program when it comes to sports at Northern Colorado Wrestling. And we take great pride in it. And we get good support. But that's a drop in the bucket compared to a Penn State, Okie State, those type of guys.
Sure.
And that's wrestling. But Penn State wrestling is a drop in the bucket compared to Penn State football, Okie State football.
Yep.
That's just a drop in the bucket. And so at the end of the day, no, I don't. You got very few programs that can probably that edge to come out on top. And our deal is that's what concerns me with the smaller programs is you're gonna have the big programs all the way up there, and you're gonna have a small program, just like you have the rich and the poor. That's just you're either gonna be rich or poor. Just like you're gonna be big or small. And we hope that it doesn't bleed out the small. Just to keep the rich above.
It scares me.
And we don't do it. And that's why I said NCAA can't be that far-fetched to where we as coaches, average Joes, explain the rules to them and try to break the rules to them, and they refuse to listen and get a hold of this, before it could ruin the sport. Because at the end of the day, everybody's about give me. And when you have a mindset of give me, that doesn't last well. That's not a good relationship to have.
Yeah, and it's funny how many of the top coaches will say in front of microphones, well, I'm about getting the sport forward. I'm here to grow the sport, when in actuality, they're here to grow their program. And that basically is, and I can't hate on it, because I don't know that if I were in that situation, I'd do anything different, right? Like, my livelihood is based upon the success of this program, not the RTC, not how the conference does, and certainly not how the NCAA does, whether it's thriving. So, yeah, I get it. I'm not mad at them about it, but let's stop with the lip service, man. Stop blowing smoke at my ass, telling me that you're here for the NCAA wrestling, when the truth of the matter is you're here for your program. So that begs the question, is there a way to get these bigger schools on board with helping some, like, so, all right, I love baseball. Is there a way to do a revenue share? Like where you spend, if Penn State spends this amount of money, then, and it's over a salary cap, that has to go to the smaller budget schools.
I mean, I wouldn't complain about it. I really wouldn't. You know, it doesn't even really matter with the spending right now if you don't have the core rules in play. You know, and what I mean by core rules, meaning, you know, the dead periods. You know, I mean that's a serious thing of having dead periods in the sport of wrestling. You know, I believe football has 6. You know, you should have that. You know, like there should be no recruiting during NCAAs. You know, me as a coach, I should not be worried that a couple of my guys are in the transfer portal while I'm at the biggest tournament of mine. I should be focused on. I shouldn't have to be recruiting in March when I'm getting my guys ready for conference and nationals. You know, so our foundation is off when it comes to the NCAA wrestling, and you know, I mean, I always preach about that is make the game, make the core, the foundation right to where that's an even level play. Because let's be real, you know, say Penn State has 30 guys. Not all 30 guys, top guys, are just going to go to Penn State. You know what I mean? If they want to be soldiers and they want to be good in this game. So at the end of the day, if the core, the foundation is right to where everybody has a shot at Johnny, then, you know, Johnny can go prove himself and show if he's, you know, Penn State material to wrestle that. But if the core isn't right and guys can recruit and jump in the portal and donors can call athletes whenever and this, that, and the other, then, you know, of course, the people with the money is always going to have, you know, you got the Penn States. I mean, I'm not saying these guys are out.
No, we're using Penn State as an
Yeah,
example.
they're just
I understand.
the top dogs. No, they're the top dogs. But you got Penn State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. You got Iowa. You got these top notch schools. You know, that have big boosters behind them. That pretty much go get any guy that they want to go do what they need to do. And so at the end of the day, you know, I just say make the foundation, the core, you know, solid to where everybody has a shot in that playing field to go do it.
So what is the first thing that we as a wrestling community what rule change in terms of NIL? What's the first rule change that we as a community, if we're smart enough to see around corners, which I think people are starting to wake up and understand that, hey, 30 scholarships sounded like a great idea, but who's got that bill, right? Like who's going to foot that bill, right? So what's the first rule change that you think we should all rally around?
You know, to me, the first thing, you know, a high school kid should not be getting paid. A high school kid in towards NIL, he should not sign, you know, to get paid money. You know, that's the first step to me of this is what it is.
So that would immediately change it. That it would have to be incentive based, right? That would like people don't realize like how big of a deal that is. Like so, I'm going to use an example, and everyone's going to know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah,
but I won't say the names. If this high school kid is coming out of high school and getting promised $1 million a year over 5 years, and he's never stepped foot on your mat or the NCAA tournament's mat, and you got a kid that made a final already at a lower weight, going, hey, what about me? You know, and I don't know that Drake, I mean, you know what I mean? I don't know that he did come to Tom and Terry and say, hey, I don't know. But that changes it. That changes it right away. If you say no kid out of high school can get an NIL deal, okay, for something that he hasn't done yet on a college mat. Now all of a sudden it shifts everything to, okay, well, we have this NIL money set aside, and we can give our athletes NIL money, and nobody says don't pay the athletes. That's a different conversation. But no, we all say fine, pay the athletes. You know, you wish you got paid when you were an athlete. Everyone wishes they got paid when they were an athlete, but it shifts who and how you spend that money immediately. That's not a bad idea, Coach.
I mean, like I said, it's not that I don't want athletes to get paid. I want them to get paid.
True.
I want the ones that get the results to get paid, because if that's the case, why can't I get $1 million and $1 million signing bonus?
Right.
Because there's rules to this game. There's differences to this game. Every coach then should get $1 million and $1 million signing bonus, but there's different rules to this game. And yes, you got to get the results to do what you need to do. And you know, high school kids, you know, I've seen a lot. I've seen a few come through, show out, do their thing, and I've seen the ones that just couldn't make it. It wasn't as fun anymore, you know, because it was tough. You know, they had to get out. And they actually had to go start hunting for their meals. And so, and at the end of the day, if they get the results, pay those young men. Take care of them. Look out for them, you know.
For sure.
But, you know, the way the rules, and I'm seeing them in all other sports, athletes making deals here and they're not owning up to their you know, their deals because they're comfortable. You know, you're buying athletes cars and giving them this money instead of, they shouldn't be allowed to touch that money either. That's another rule I would do, is you got to go invest, because if we're really caring about these guys' future, to give them a better shot at the future, you don't give no 21-year-old, 18 to 21-year-old this type of money and
true story
how to invest. You know, it's like, no, you're gonna learn to where this is gonna help you out for the future. You, once again, it's teaching you discipline, you know, and that's big time important to me, because once again, you got fueling stations, you got training tables. These athletes are fine. They're not struggling. All they want to do is what we call, it's called stunt. They want to stunt. They want to show somebody what they really got, and going to go buy this $60,000-$70,000 car and everything like that. And so you're getting them a scholarship. They got food. They got the gear. They got all this stuff, but they want to stunt to everybody. Let them know, all right, this is what I got. No, that's not helping you 4 or 5 years. Because if he's thinking like that, next thing you know it, you wonder why they're all broke. You know, within 5, 6 years. So teaching these guys that too. If they really can't touch that.
Yeah, that's interesting. There are some programs doing that. I'm sure you know, but I know for a fact that I don't think he'd mind me saying it, but Doug Schwab, he puts any NIL money is minimal cash in hand, and the rest of it goes into an IRA, and they get it in 20 years when it's compounded over. It's compounded, and now all of a sudden, you're coming out of college, because let's be honest, right? Like the guys that are getting that money are probably doing 5 years of college and then another 4 as an Olympic athlete. So you're talking about 9 to 10 years. Now all of a sudden they start their life with a really solid financial base. And now you can say, yeah, you're right. We didn't give you the truck. We didn't give you the $120,000 truck. You're right. But we did buy you your daggone house, right? Like we bought you your house. Like, you know,
you cats are getting around. If Johnny got a car I don't care if he got a 90 Plymouth, you know, Johnny's getting around. What good are you doing, Johnny, of buying him a 2025 Beamer, you know? But his Plymouth was getting around just fine. Once again, you're caving into his preferences. Because last time I checked, a car is just getting you around, getting you from point A to point B. But you go from a car that you don't have to pay off, it's been getting you around good so far, but now you want to go spend $75,000 on a Beamer, and that's not getting you. That's not helping you. That's, once again, that's instant gratification, which is not going to do you well. Because why? A couple weeks, couple months, that car is going to get old to you. Because why? You're going to see something that's even newer. But like you said, teaching them how to put the discipline in and say, act like you don't have it. put this aside and let it compound and do what you need to do. And now you got your family, you got your kids, you got you somewhat set up for the next generation to do what you need to do.
Yeah, it's I, I maybe it's the optimist in me. Maybe it's the optimist, and maybe it's out of necessity
Mhm.
because not everyone can buy the $120,000 truck for their high school incoming freshman. Okay,
Right.
not everyone can do that. So maybe a part of it is out of necessity, and a part of it is just my blind optimism. But I do see things starting to go in that direction. Like I see some of the smaller programs going, "Hey, listen, you ain't going to get the $120,000 truck if you come here, but you will get money on top of your scholarship money that you can put in the bank in an IRA every single month. You're taken care of. What do you need? You have a place to live. You have a place to train. You have, food, and you have, clothes on your back, right? We give them to you. What else do you need? Well, take this money, make it work for you in an IRA or something like that. And I think we're seeing a little bit more of that, and probably more out of necessity, right? Because there's just not a lot of programs that can put together the cash to give you. And I'm using the truck, and you said Beamer, but you know what I'm talking about, the 6-figure NIL deal.
Right. No, you're right. You're right about that. So that's important. I tell guys that we're going that route too. Because we can't compete with these bigger schools, man. And I'm not gonna lie to these bigger schools, but I tell these guys, are you looking at a program or are you just looking at what somebody can do for you? Because if your mindset is just looking at what somebody can do for you, you're not gonna make it in this game. At the end of the day, a relationship goes both ways. And it's what you can do and what they can do. And can you be a team player to go build something from the ground up? I respect Andrew Illyris. Come from a small environment. No people were trying to get him and poach him and all this, but he stuck to his roots and he did something big in a small environment. That's big. That's rare.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah, no, it's tricky though, right? It's tricky because here, and I'm going to tell you a funny story, and I think you can maybe relate to it. My son took a visit to Cal Baptist,
mm,
and I wasn't in town. I was out at U17s, and my wife took him up there, and she loved the place, and she's like, "Oh, this place is great. Coaches were great," and I was like, "Yeah, they're awesome. I love Derek Moore. I love those guys. They're great." She said, "Well, how come they haven't had All Americans yet? How come?" And I'm like, "Well, first of all, slow down. Okay, they're a very young program, right? Like they just got Division I status. So that's number one. Number two, they had Mitchell Messenbrink on
uh-huh.
campus.
Yeah.
Okay, they had him on campus, and then he goes and shows out at U20s and has the tournament of his life at the trial. Like
Yeah.
he was gone, and she's
Yeah.
like, "Look, what do you mean?" And like I'm trying to explain it to her. I was like, "Well, Mitchell Messenbrink probably wasn't the greatest high school athlete that ever was, but after he graduated, he had a great run where he won the U20 trials and goes and silvers at the U20 World Championships, spends one semester at CBU, and then Kale called, and I don't know how much money he offered him. I genuinely don't know, but I assume that there was NIL money involved. Mitchell Messenbrink now wins a national title for Penn State. And she's like, "That's a bunch of crap. How could he do that? Blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Would you do it if it was our son?" And she goes, "Well, that's a different story."
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's a different story. So how, like, it's hard, right? It's a very difficult, it's a tightrope that we're on. Like we expect loyalty from these kids, but in actuality, that could be, and I don't know for sure. I don't think the Messenbrinks are hurting for money, but it could be life-changing money for a family. It really could.
Of course. And like I said, we've had that share with athletes. I believe, your relationship too with your athlete. because you can have somebody taking advantage of an athlete. Don't
Sure.
feel like the athlete just needs to be grateful that you recruited him and gave him an opportunity, but this athlete has done way above,
Sure.
beyond, and you're still trying to keep him at the bottom. So you got coaches
Mhm.
do those things, and then athletes, other people see
100%.
for different. Like it's no different than you think of a bottle of water. It just depends what environment you're in. In one environment, the grocery store, that bottle of water might be 50 cents. At the
Mhm.
gas station, that bottle of water might be $2. At the airport,
Mhm.
that same bottle might be $5. It just depends what environment you're in. That your value, see what your value is. And people talk about, oh, there's no loyalty with athletes and this, that, and the other. I get it and I understand it, but let's be real too. A lot of coaches ain't loyal either. How many coaches leave? For bigger pay. They leave for
Mhm.
bigger pay. And that's
Sure.
I mean, that's why a lot of coaches are in the game for big effect,
Mhm.
and but my deal is though too, what the thing I say is if a coach leaves, they usually have a buyout. They have a buyout
Mhm.
to where the other school has to buy them out so they can
Mm.
team can get theirs back. So at the end of the day, if you want to treat it like a business and these athletes want to leave, there should be a buyout so I can get my money back to do what I need to do. Because otherwise, I put in all the time. I had to, I help this athlete.
You will.
Boom,
Yeah.
so especially to a small college because
Yeah.
college can't recover. A Cal Baptist can't recover like a Penn State. Penn State,
Mm.
one guy can leave, next guy is ready to go. They're
Mhm.
sitting there waiting in line. So at the end of the day, that's how it should be. If you want to be about the business, let the foundation, let everything be right all around instead of having gaps in this game.
Sure. Yeah. No, that a buyout would change some things. It
Mhm.
would change some things. Yeah, that's and these seem like pretty simple fixes, coach, right? Like, I
Oh,
mean,
for sure.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what all has to go on to change these things, but a simple
Oh,
buyout,
it can
like, okay,
change. It can
yeah,
change. If
fair,
if NIL got into the picture, it can change. It's just people if
sure,
the NCAA wants it to change. And the NCAA, seriously, coaches, I personally believe coaches who run this game, run this sport, that teach these guys should have to be the leaders of this and be the rule making, decision making because they get it. The NCAA, for some odd part, refused to get it. I think they get it, but they refuse to do anything about it. So
Mm,
you know, the coaches they understand it and know this is what we need, for the court because
mm,
a lot of coaches, of course, there's always somebody with more money. We get that, but I believe
yeah,
too. How does a Doug Schwab keep a Kaiser? Because he has a relationship. He has a
yeah,
relationship, build a relationship with that young man. When athletes don't have the relationship with their staff, with that person, with their core coach, they're going to leave. The money might catch their attention, but they're going to leave. But when they have a relationship with that head coach and hey, they that coach took the chance on me and is run with me, they're gonna stick with that coach. So um a lot of times. So that
sure,
is money is just amusing. But those guys, I believe a lot of these athletes are loyal, but at the end of the day, they just don't have that bond with
mm,
with their leader.
yeah. The relationship is becoming the commodity
Yeah,
sooner rather than later, for sure.
yeah.
All right. Let's get to our sprint here, brother. Try not to think too much about these next questions. Just fire away, shoot from the hip a little bit. Um, what is the best wrestling shoe of all time?
Man, mine, the Rulon Gardens. They're great.
Okay, I love it. Good one. All right. So we talked about the building of the relationships. We talked about NIL money and how it's affecting the athletes' kind of hunger in the sport. Is there a book that you could recommend to any up and coming coach on how to build these relationships and how to kind of prepare these young men for the NIL transfer portal age that we're in?
Be honest with you, I don't know. I'm not the reader of wrestling books, which I know I need to be better at.
Doesn't have to be wrestling. Doesn't have to be wrestling.
I'm more of a face-to-face ass. You know, I sit down with coaches and everything like that I look up to, that I respect, of asking their opinions and getting their different views. But I will be getting more on reading these books as the game goes on. So I can't lie to you and say I do.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Next one. You only get 4. They got to be American. Who is on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling?
Man, got it. You know, these ain't in order. And you say American. Is this adding freestyle?
Doesn't matter. Hey, they got to be American.
I say Burroughs.
Mm-hmm.
Man, obviously, John Smith. Kenny Monday.
Coming from a Sooner. Kenny Monday, two boys on that list. Coming from a Sooner feels good.
And you got to me, you got the Danny Hodge. You know, you got.
I like that. I like that. That's a good one. That might be Dan Hodge. Might be the first.
That's the first for Dan Hodge.
I love it. That's a good one. I forgot about Danny Hodge. That's a great one. Okay. All right. Now, doesn't have to be a rule change. Doesn't have to be anything at all. Could be whatever you want. If you had a magic wand and you could change one thing about the sport and it changes tomorrow, what would it be?
My main thing, with wrestling, it'd be with wrestling, you know, and I will make, like I said before, I'll make the foundation core right, where, you know, nobody gets paid out of high school. And everybody gets a fair shot at what.
I got to tell you, it doesn't sound like that is crazy. Like we get some outlandish ones like, you know, I want to change the freestyle tomorrow. Well, that would take some doing. Like that would take a whole lot of doing. We get ones that are like, oh, I wish every one of our guys made $1 million. Yeah, okay, fine, but that would take some doing. Like there has to be somewhere that rule change does not seem crazy to me. Right. And would it be tough to swallow at first? Sure, for sure. If we're all really interested in the betterment of the sport, seems like that would be better for overall health.
Right. You're right. So, I mean, it's simple. I mean, I think once we get that, the foundation right, then you can build around it and make adjustments. I mean, no different than a house, you know. Every house, you know, eventually is going to get renovated. But you can't renovate a house if its foundation ain't right.
Right. 100%.
The foundation right, then you do what you need to do.
You're the best, man. Coach Teyon Ware, thank you so much for spending some time with us, man. I really do wish you all the luck in the world up at UNC, and I look forward to seeing your progress up there.
I appreciate it. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I hope NCAA is listening and hear me out in this.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they're listening intently. Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it, brother.
I appreciate you guys.
All right. Wait. Don't go anywhere before you hit that next button. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, do us a huge favor. Click that subscribe button. And if you're so inclined, leave a review and share it.